We're listening to DFC Radio.
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. This is your host, Emily, and I am coming back after a break last week. I actually took last Tuesday off and had no show. So coming back from a 2-week hiatus, I had a few too many things just going on. Last week I was trying to get ready and prep for a big trade show, and I was in Denver all week for work, and it just didn't work out with editing. And I have been applying and looking at houses because I have to move. And luckily last week I finally got my very own cottage with a garden in Petaluma, California. So I get to move yet again on July 1st. I get to move in, and I'm very excited to have a living situation that also has its own private garden on site. So that being said, lots of craziness, and just I needed a break, and every once in a while you get a break, so I took a break. Now on today's show, I am going to be talking with LJ, who is a grower, and with Daryl from Indigrow about an aquaponic cannabis garden that I visited 2 weekends ago in Southern California. So I was also down in San Diego. That was another thing, is I just need a little bit of a break. So aquaponic cannabis garden we'll be talking about. And a little update from the Wisconsin vegetable gardeners. They have their gardening in 2 minutes. And the girl in a garden question of the week. Why are the bottom of my tomatoes turning black or brown? So that's what we will be talking about today on the show. Now, I said earlier, last week I was in Denver for a trade show, and for the company I work for, we went to CannaCon, which is a cannabis business-to-business show, and I believe it's their third show. They did one show last year in Tacoma. They did another show in March in Seattle, and then I believe this was the third one that they did in Denver at the Colorado Convention Center. And it's a great show, being that it's something that is much better than the max yield shows. And you're talking to and you're interacting with people that are straight business to business. But as all shows out there, and if you do the trade show circuits, there's a huge room for improvement. Now, if you do the cannabis shows, they seem to be plagued with extreme disorganization. And this is why a lot of people do not do the high times cups. First, because it's not quite the right audience that they're looking for. So she's a garden equipment manufacturer. You'll see that those shows are a lot of fun, but you are not talking to the correct end user. You're talking to the people that actually, the end user is the cannabis that's grown with the gardens, and who you want to talk to is the people that are in the booths that are actually the producers, the one that use the growing equipment. So CannaCon is this new show that's supposed to help replace that, and it's going in the right direction. But if you're going to spend the money, be aware that there is some organization issues of trying to put together a big show, and it seems like nothing always gets done at the last minute. So I was asked and sent an email that I was going to be a panel speaker for an LED panel discussion. And that's not the right product for me to talk about. I can talk about lighting in general, or I can talk about HID lighting, but LED lighting is something I wouldn't talk about. So was emailed and told I've been put on this panel, and there's just no choice. That's what they ended up doing. And I emailed back, and it's just like, this is not the right thing for us to be assigned up without asking. And as a lighting manufacturer, you kind of need to figure out which lighting you should talk about, especially in panels. So at the very end, they changed the panel discussion to lighting in general, and they didn't have any moderator. So luckily enough, the wonderful person Tanya over at Rocket Plasma just stepped in and helped as a moderator of the panel, which turned out really well. But there wasn't that much attendance. There was about 20 people in the audience listening about lighting, and the moderator stepped in. It could have been organized a little bit better. Same with the foot traffic. We were told that they had called every single hydro store in the state to get attendance up. And when I'm talking to some of our stores at work and we're telling them we're in Denver for this specific show, come by and visit our booth, and they're asking, what's the website? We've never even heard about this show. So it was more attended by people outside the state than people lived in Colorado. And the attendance was pretty low. And they didn't get name tags until the last minute, which happened to be wristbands. It needs some room for improvement. So I have signed up to do a booth at CannaCon next year, early next year in Seattle. And I did let them know that if there's some things that don't get organized and pulled together and done in a timely manner, it's the last show that we're going to do. And I believe that that was kind of the sentiment with many of the exhibitors over there of light traffic. It's a 3-day show. It was not not really advertised, but I will say the potential's there. I like the direction of the show. I like what they're trying to do. They just need to get some more team members in there and get everything organized way beforehand, and it will help everything improve. So that was my kind of take back from CannaCon is need some organization and some better promotion to get the store owners and to get people to the show to get the foot traffic in. And this was the exact opposite of the case of the Seattle show. The Seattle show, we were packed the whole time with massive amounts of foot traffic and good conversations. This show, pretty slow. Some great products were there. There were some interesting products. And it's a green rush. So there's a lot of people coming in the industry that are also very green per se and have no idea what they're doing, and it's going to be an interesting thing to watch in this industry, to watch it evolve. So the next CannaCon show is next year, and then another show that's coming up, and I just did last month, is the Marijuana Business Expo and Conference, and we did the Chicago one. There's now one in November, and I just booked a booth for that show. So we'll see how these new shows are evolving and if Max Yield still stays around. And Maximum Yield does still have a trade show scheduled in July in LA, and it's the last weekend in July. And we'll see how that one goes because that one is an industry and a public day, and it's about hydroponics. And that one also is lacking in some organizations, and time, the times have changed, and the audience of that show is changing as well. So it'll be interesting to see how these shows change and what will be the best fit for companies exhibiting in the indoor markets and people that are attending and who wants to attend and who you end up talking with. Overall, the show was a good show, though, mainly because it was in Denver and there's a lot of business in Denver. I personally have a lot of friends who live in Denver, and being able to network and doing some of the dinners with customers and people that you want to talk about projects with was absolutely worth the trip out there. And I believe, and I've talked to a few manufacturers and distributors about this, is They will probably be more successful and get their ROI back from the show, from the dinners and the customer interaction that they had outside of the trade show business hours than they did from the audience that was at the show. So it ended up being valuable networking and talking with some great people that are in the industry. But it didn't quite happen at the show. And it's interesting to see all of the new people that are coming into this industry. It is definitely a green rush, and you're seeing a lot of these penny stock or pink sheet companies coming in, purchasing other companies, and launching in these shows. And we were talking with the guy, and he had a newer booth, and he was suggesting, he's like, "Oh, we need you guys in some of the press pictures. It's great having cute girls in the pictures." And we kind of look at him, and we're like, "You're new, aren't you?" He's like, "Yeah, we're just brand new. We're getting started in this industry." And as a female, sometimes you can think, well, that's kind of insulting to think of it that way. And the other thing is now, when you look at people in the industry that start like that, you're like, yeah, let the products talk for themselves and not the females that are in the picture. And it's going to help you out in the long run, buddy. So we can tell you're green when you ask us to do pictures like that. But it is evolving, and we will see how it changes. And if some of these companies that are popping into the industry and they're publicly traded, if they're going to stick around, and if they can ride the wave and do this. So we will see. It's one of the watch and sees. So we are going to get started with today's show. Uh, we're going to go to a break first, hear from a Girl in a Garden show sponsors. And if you are interested in becoming a sponsor of A Girl in a Garden, we do have a new account manager. Her name is Aaliyah, and you can reach her at Aaliyah, and that's ALEA, at dfcradio.com, and she'll be able to help you with advertising, and we'll have information about all of the shows on the DFC Radio Network, including the Heavy Teas Grow Show, the Beer 30 Show, and Grow with Grubby Cup. So we're going to take a brief break, and I will be right back, and we'll be talking about aquaponic cannabis.
We're listening to DFCRadio.com.
You are listening to the beautiful Julie Walter on DFCRadio.com. Hey, Dr. Duff, are you signing up for another one of those internet dating sites after your divorce?
Nah, I'm just ordering these freaking douchebags from China here. Just gonna be saving a lot of money on it. About $1 a bag.
Did you say douchebags?
Yeah, they're pots. They're fabric pots. They're, made in China. They save $1 a bag from all the other.
Oh, it sounds like an imitation smart pot or something.
Yeah, save $1, but, I'm pretty sure these douchebags are gonna work.
Dude, I had a buddy of mine who used those same douchebags. He bought them direct from China. It killed his whole garden.
Oh, bro, what? So, I'm better off spending that extra dollar on a smart pot?
I'd get a smart pot.
Don't be a Duff man. Make sure to buy the original patented Smart Pot. Check them out at smartpots.com.
DFCRadio.com.
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. This is your host, Emily. And today I am visiting a garden in California, and I am speaking with the grower, LJ. Hi, LJ.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hey there.
And Daryl from Integro. How are you doing, Daryl?
I'm doing fantastic, Emily. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for letting me visit some stuff, and we're going to talk about aquaponic gardening. And you guys are doing something a little bit different with aquaponics.
Yes. What we do as manufacturers of lighting, I'd like to make sure our lights are being installed properly so that we're getting the most even coverage and the right intensities over the plants. LJ is a very skilled grower, but when we come in, we're here to help LJ make sure that we're optimizing the use of our products. In this particular case, it's an aquaponic garden. It's an aquaponic med garden. And LJ's been growing for many years out in Colorado, traditional hydroponics, right, LJ?
Yeah, all different types of hydroponics.
And this room, as he set this room up, he had 3 different systems that he was employing. One's a table system where it's kind of a perpetual, and that's using a decoupled type of aquaponic where the fish water is being taken to a reservoir, and then LJ can add nutrients like you would have in any hydro grow, right?
So I think before we get too far into this, a hydro grow would be growing
With bottled nutrients.
with bottled nutrients without soil.
Right.
And aquaponic growing is
Fish waste.
It's the same similar medium, but we're using fish water to have the nutrients.
And it recirculates. So like your decoupled or hydro systems, you're taking a spray to waste or there's runoff, and we don't have that. We keep all that within the system. So it uses a lot less water. We use about 95% of the water of traditional gardens.
and what you're getting different from aquaponics to hydroponics is you're getting fish.
We co-cultivate the fish too. Yeah. Is
So
that what
you're actually getting almost another harvest off of
Correct,
it of
yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
And you're using nutrients. So we are talking about a garden where you're using aquaponics. So you're growing with something that's a little bit different because we're talking about a med garden right now.
All right.
What are these different methods that you're testing and trying out with lighting and aquaponics?
Well, I like from the lighting standpoint, we're going to be broad spectrum with our induction lamps, our integral lamps. We use the pontoons and flower. So in terms of watts per square foot or square meter, we're about half of that of what an HID grow would be, but we're operating entirely differently. The lamps are closer to the canopy. They run cooler, so there's not going to be the infrared evaporative transpiration issues that you'd have with the canopy. That being said, LJ comes from Colorado, has been growing for many years, so he took a leap with a lot of different types of growing techniques here. One would be the Indigro induction lighting, but 2 would be the aquaponics. So what was your first reaction, when we started talking about doing this, 5-6 months ago?
My reaction, I was really excited to finally be involved in the whole permaculture fish thing going on, and also to contribute to the sustainability. It's basically old technology being brought in a new way. So I was really excited when I first heard about it, and now that we've been doing it here for several months, it's been just really exciting to even tell people about, because every time somebody hears about it, it's just so out of the realm of what people would invest in normally. People aren't really into experimenting with their investments, so a lot of people are just really scared of even trying it. They just don't have the time and budget and money to the possible setback of experimenting with a new growing, no matter how sustainable it is. But out in Colorado, they're forcing it in the law, in the legislation.
How is that though? Because of the water and energy savings, I know there's programs that are talking about doing that. Are they doing that now?
Well, in Boulder they are.
Okay.
In Boulder, they've set back major restrictions on all cannabis grow operations.
Such as?
To fit within the guidelines, you have to you can't do spray to waste anymore. You have to be able to recirculate your water somehow. So people are going to be leaning towards aquaponics eventually.
And then flushing of the reservoirs, how is that being handled?
Yeah, well, the flushing of the reservoirs, I mean, there's always the waste that is an environmental hazard of salts that are just potentially going into the ground and then ruining the soil. So, that actually could be considered harmful also. And it's not always the case, but in a lot of them it is.
It uses a lot of water, so
It uses a lot of water.
what LJ can tell you, Emily, is that with the aquaponic systems, there's no flushing. So there are no heavy metals getting pushed down into our aquifers once a week as we flush the systems from nutrient buildup. But the other system that we're running, which is a kind of a hybrid between aquaponic and that's where you take the fish water and you run it into a reservoir and then bottle nutrients that are organic or OMRI certified. These are the type of nutrients that you would add to get your optimum cannabis production values, but you can do it down at about a half a dose. So can you speak to that a little bit? I mean, you're running some good nutrients with the Flying Skull line.
Absolutely. We're using Flying Skull nutrients, and we only have to use about half of the recommended dosage because the fish water already has about 550 ppms. So we bring it up to about 850 and call it a day.
But that water never goes back to the fish.
No.
So that's why we call it a decouple. Once that has run off, it goes where?
It goes into our vegetable garden that we have out here that is a very high output garden.
What do you think of our outdoor garden, Emily?
And actually where we're sitting, I can actually see the garden, and it's amazing. You can actually, if you're listening, you can also click the Watch Live Now button, and you can see pictures of the garden as well. So here's what I'm used to seeing as someone who's been to a lot of grows and has friends who grow, and I might have done this in the past. You usually see drain to waste systems.
Yes.
And then you see that waste that's super high ppms, has stuff in it.
Heavy metals.
Heavy metals get pumped into the backyard and dumped.
Yep.
And where you guys are doing the experimentation with aquaponics is you have the decoupled system, but you also have this almost closed loop ecosystem.
Completely closed loop. It really is.
With the aquaponics
you're
system.
right. The only place the water has to go is through evaporation. You'll lose a little, and then plant uptake. So literally, we are about 95% more efficient, more conservative. And here in California, we're forced with 36% mandatory water cuts, and it's going to get worse. So the price of food and everything else is going to go up. And to those of you that know me or have been around our farms, this isn't just about medical. It's also about the food and the genetics and non-GMO food crops that you should be growing yourself. And what I see a lot of people doing is just concentrating on the medical. Well, in our gardens, we also couple up outdoor gardens to the same aquaponic fish source, and a crop that we personally like to grow is the hops. So what did you see when you came outside our room, that tub?
Great hops.
And how do those hops look good?
They look good.
And we had the tomatoes in the media bed and basil. So what we're doing with all of that is every time you cultivate the medical side, you still have to have some plant biomass in there to handle the nitrate levels that the fish are producing from their waste. And this is a nice way to look at doing it because you have a perpetual cycle or ecosystem that you can maintain now no matter what the stage of your cannabis is. And this is without bottled nutrients.
So
what's the finish like? What did you think of our product?
It was some great product, and this is what you read on the forums. It's just, I don't know if it's an urban myth, and there's not enough education out there. So you guys are doing something that's a little bit different. What you think of aquaponic cannabis?
I've heard people say it's kind of airy. It's
what the general public thinks about it.
Yeah, the general public.
Why waste your time? I'm not saying it's the right thought process.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's the thought of it right now. Why waste your time?
It is a lot of work. I mean, you have to keep the fish happy and fed, and you're kind of married to the project. You can't really automate this. To some extent you can, but you do have to be involved with your garden for your fish too.
You definitely have to be involved with the fish, and you did a lot of hydroponic gardening. What have you learned from switching over to aquaponics? Trial and error wise.
Well, there's certain strains that really don't do well because of our pH is always going to be a little bit higher with the fish water.
Good point.
So there's certain genetics and strains and climates that are really going to be optimal and very not optimal. And that's what we've been finding with different strains and genetics. And I mean, the lighting really worked great too. This is my first time using this induction lighting. I've always been with MHs, fluorescents, LEDs, and metal halides.
High pressure soil.
But I basically, I'm a really big fan of these lights now, just because we don't have to run air through it and cool it.
How
all
much
the
power
time.
is that whole room drawing? It's about 500 square feet.
Yeah, what do we have, 40 amps?
40 amps, 240 volt, the entire room.
For 16 lights.
And there's 2 scrubbers in there, bunch of fans.
Yeah.
We're not even running AC.
So you guys are doing some testing that it's pretty cutting edge because a lot of people haven't seen it.
And they're not willing to take the time and possible setback.
But it's a different way of growing too, Emily, as you would say. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to just take a Thowie out and throw one of these in and call it a day.
Yeah.
On a 4x8, ideally for veg you'll have 2, but on flower I would say go with 3.
But this is also a learning investment as well. So if someone takes a plunge and go, I want to switch over to this, I want to do this for my garden, and I want to start growing aquaponic lettuce, I want to do this with the kids, I want to do a med garden, I want to expand on this. This is not something that you're going to slap together in a week and go, oh, I can just turn my lights on.
Nor should you.
Nor should you, because you are going to run into errors that way.
Yep.
This is a long-term investment learning process.
And you're going to make mistakes. And the thing is a lot of people will get into aquaponics and they'll get the fish to plants relationship too close together and the fish will die. You know, because the nitrate levels are too high, the ammonia levels are too high.
You're literally playing God on an ecosystem,
Yeah.
your own little private. It's much bigger than just having a fish tank on the kitchen counter. It's literally switching out the water always, you know, continuously watering the plants with it because the plants are uptaking nitrates and they're filtering out that water so that the ammonia levels are much lower for the plant.
And the pH is, like you said, it's a little higher. You're generally see around a 7.0 pH.
So there is challenges involved. That's the thing.
But you can use city water. I mean, because the only thing we have to remove is the chloramines. And then the finish is really, really organically, blissfully pure. That's
natural.
There's no snap, crackle, pop.
When it comes to medicine,
That's right. Actually, there was no snap, crackle, pop at all.
None.
when it comes to medicine, we want the purest medicine possible.
Precisely.
And
that's where we should be heading. You know,
fish
to be honest
seems to
with you.
be the best way to do it. So
And now you've tried our strawberries. You've tried, some of our traditional crops out there. What was your impression of those that are fed aquaponically?
They were extremely smooth. There was no
Yeah.
coughing. There was no snap, crackle, pop.
And the
as
strawberries,
you say.
how'd you like?
Strawberries were delicious.
And they see with the hops, the lupulin production's off the charts. So just like your terpene production, I noticed there's more resin and oil production on the aquaponic sides under our light. But what I found is like the terpene production's enhanced. And same with the hops. The lupulin production, the guys that brew are like, oh, we want more. So the only thing stopping us from going into full production on any of this is just how much room is available and how much time do we have and are willing to commit to it. Our hope is we can inspire more people to do this for inner city opportunities that will promote agricentric skills and farm to fork in their local communities. Get them off processed foods.
it'll fight against Monsanto as well.
I do have to ask, since you have been growing and doing and learning and growing meds with aquaponics, are you finding other like-minded people out there that are trying these same experiments?
Yes, they're growing. More and more are coming to this realization because they just like it. Because as gardeners, I think we want to be more environmentally sensitive anyway. And then after a while, you say, if I've got to make a garden grow from hundreds of dollars in front of my cashier, my point of sale at the hydro shop, what's wrong with this picture? That's not what we were brought up with in gardening. And honestly, going back to aquaponics, the Egyptians developed this thousands of years ago. They were masters at moving water and creating turning deserts into farmland. We're just piggybacking the work that they did and bringing it into the inner city, and it's very, very rewarding.
So you're getting, obviously, a cannabis crop out of this. What kind of fish are you growing in the aquaponic system?
We've got some tilapia, and we've got some bluegill,
bass.
bass.
A wide variety of fish like this. Tilapia are probably the most resilient to temperature changes and pH changes, though.
And they will also live in about any kind of water
Yes.
out there.
Yes, they do.
They're very adaptable species.
But I think you find a lot of people that aren't willing to get into the aquaponic side because it's just easier to go to the hydro store and buy the bottled nutrients. So we're talking to a different-minded person, I would think. And then there's a whole crowd that just says it can't be done.
That's the crowd that I'm used to speaking
Yeah.
to, that it can't be done.
Yeah.
And it can be done. And
You're
that's
seeing
It has been.
I mean,
done.
you're seeing some of the most beautiful bud formations, that we've ever grown coming out of these systems. And it's a shame. I also know that there's vertical opportunities where you can do this. And it's a little different conversation what we can have. But again, more plants per square foot, taking advantage of more of the vertical opening spaces in these large warehouse buildings. And remember that it's not going to be long before it's going to be a watts per square foot or watts per square meter limitation too. So in addition to being limited by water, the utilities are only going to give you so many watts per square foot. So we have to get a little more sensitive to, how we get to the end product. What did it take to do to get there?
So as you guys have been growing with this method, you're finding that you're reduced water usage, you're replacing water because of evaporation, but very
yes.
little
That's
water
great.
use.
And plant uptake.
That's
Increased plant uptake?
No, that's the only other side of the water.
Okay. Oh, so I'm sorry.
To replenish it.
That makes sense. So to replenish water, you're losing water to some to evaporation, some to plant uptake.
Yes.
So you're seeing reduced water usage. For the ones like the decoupled system, you're seeing reduced nutrient usage.
50%.
So you're seeing benefits that way, especially when we're in this drought. But then you also have these other positives, which would be fish. You're getting food out of it as well.
You cultivate the fish. Every 7 to 9 months, you can have a 1.5 pound tilapia, fresh fish. And if you, like we do, we feed them organic fish food. It's high in protein. It's a solid pellet size, and we know that we have a non-GMO fish family of fish in these tanks that are the most perfectly edible and nutritious fish out there.
So if someone listening to this would like to learn more about aquaponics, is there a good starting point you would push them in a direction to? Is there a good book or
there's
where's a good information
There's so
place?
many videos out there on YouTube. I mean, just go through it and learn. There's the University of the Virgin Islands, UVI. There's a lot of people that have turned aquaponics into what it is today and its efficiencies.
And LJ, as a grower, do you have any resources that you go look when you have questions or want to learn more about aquaponics?
Yeah. I just do searches for different things specifically and see what other threads, and there's a lot of other people that have been doing this for a while, that they're out there, they're just far and few, but there's videos on YouTube. I like to watch those.
I think it's
and searches.
But I think co-ops are so important because if you've got a group of 10 families, for example, they need a regular, organic, pure food source. We don't know what tomorrow will bring, but if the dollar crashes and the price of food goes through the roof, it's going to be more important than ever to have your own food supply and to have it organic and pure like this. Get ahead of the curve and get started. Build your medical side into this. But, know what you're putting into your body and know your genetics. And this is a great place to start.
And I would say from the cost perspective, and it's the learning curve, start with lettuce.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And move to cannabis if that's your end result.
Yes.
But don't start with the expensive stuff first.
Yeah, where it's important that you have your meds for your own personal homeopathic treatments and things. The other nice thing is what's going into it. And if the fish have to live, you can't hurt them. You can't introduce any chemicals that would harm the fish. You know that what you're taking is organically, purely grown.
Well, I have to say thank you very much, LJ and Daryl, for joining me today and talking about using aquaponics in the garden and using it in a different application. And Daryl is with Indigrow. They're also using the lighting
And the controls of that
and the
lighting,
controls in the garden. And what's your website?
Indigrow.com, INDA-GRO.com.
So I saw something that in my 10 years in this industry, I was always told would never work. And that's aquaponics and induction lighting
All together.
all together. And it's not a leafy green.
No. I've been
It's
called
not leafy green. So.
Horty, if you're out there, I'm not the lettuce man anymore. Sorry.
So I will say I've seen something that I haven't seen in the industry before, and it's great to see people experimenting. So there you go. There's a ton of great information in that. I will also post the links in the website as well, so people can learn more information if they have questions.
Girl in the Garden, thank you
Girl
for
in the
having
Garden.
us.
Thank
So
you.
until next time, this is Emily on A Girl in the Garden, and thank you.
Hasta luego.
When my blood runs warm with an old red wine, I miss the life that I left behind. hear the sound of the blackbird's cry. I know I left in the nick of time. But this road I'm on's gonna turn to sand. Leave me lost in a far-off land.
We're listening to DFCRadio.com.
Here at Green Grow, we take organic gardening seriously. With our mycorrhizae products, you'll increase growth and help reduce the need to replace old, worn-out soil. We help provide electrolytes and maximize nutrient intake to make your indoor garden lush and green. So give your plants the strength that they need and breathe life into your soil with Green Grow. Find us at your local nursery or visit us at thegreengrow.com. That's the green, GRO.com.
You are listening to the beautiful Emily Walter on DFCRadio.com. Hey, Dr. Duff, you signed up for another one of those internet dating sites after your divorce?
Nah, I'm just ordering these freaking douchebags from China here. Just gonna be saving a lot of money on it. About $1 a bag.
Did you say douchebags?
Yeah, they're pots. They're fabric pots. They're made in China. They save $1 a bag from all the other.
Oh, it sounds like an imitation smart pot or something.
Yeah, save $1, but I'm pretty sure these douchebags are gonna work.
Dude, I had a buddy of mine who used those same douchebags. He bought them direct from China. It killed his whole garden.
Oh, bro, what? So I'm better off spending that extra dollar on a smart pot?
I'd get a smart pot.
Don't be a Duff man. Make sure to
Buy the original patented Smart Pot. Check them out at smartpots.com.
DFCRadio.com.
A girl in a garden question of the week. Help, the bottom of my tomato plants are turning black and have lesions on them. What is it? Well, many people mistake this for a fungal or bacterial disease on the tomato. And it's actually called blossom end rot, and it can be on tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. Blossom end rot is a serious disorder of tomato, pepper, and eggplant. Growers are often distressed to notice the dry, sunken decay has developed on the blossom end, and this is the opposite of the stem side. So it's the bottom of the fruit. And this happens especially to the first fruit of the season. And this is a non-parasitic disorder that can be damaging with losses of 50% or more of some years' crops. Now, the symptoms of this is on tomato and eggplant, blossom end rot usually begins as a small water-soaked area at the blossom end of the fruit. This may appear when the fruit is green or during ripening. As the lesion develops, it enlarges, becomes sunken, and turns black and leathery. In severe cases, it may completely cover the lower half of the fruit, and it can become flat and concave. Secondary pathogens commonly invade the lesion, often resulting in complete destruction of the infected fruit. On peppers, the affected areas tan and sometimes are mistaken for sun scald, which is actually white. Secondary molds often colonize in the affected areas, resulting in black, brown, or a dark appearance. Blossom end rot also occurs on the sides of pepper fruit near the blossom end. The cause of blossom end rot, well, what I said is it's not caused by parasitic organisms, so fungal or bacterial is not caused, but it is a physiological disorder associated with low concentration of calcium in the fruit. Calcium is required in relatively large concentration for normal cell growth. When rapidly growing fruit is deprived of necessary calcium, the tissues break down, leaving a characteristically dry, sunken lesion at the bottom end. Blossom end rot is induced when demand for calcium exceeds the supply. This can happen from low calcium levels or high amounts of competitive cautions in the soil, drought stress, or excessive soil moisture fluctuation, which reduce uptake and movement of calcium in the plant, or rapid vegetative growth due to excessive nitrogen fertilizer. Now, there are a few ways to get around this and not get blossom end rots. The best thing is by testing the soil. So, most vegetables do well with a soil pH of 6.2 to 6.8. For those with blossom end, the pH should actually be around 6.5 to 6.8 to free more calcium from the soil chemistry. Test results will indicate the amount of lime to add to your soil. Even better, lime also contains calcium. Work the lime into the top 12 inches of the soil. Use a lime labeled with fast acting, which is better than ground limestone unless you have weeks to wait for the lime to react in the soil. If the pH is already correct, the soil test will recommend a different calcium source, such as gypsum. You can also add crumbled eggshells to your compost or bury them in your garden over time to help maintain calcium levels. A few other quick tips is don't over fertilize. As I said, too much nitrogen during early fruiting, especially with nitrogen made from ammonia, ties up calcium in the soil chemistry. Avoid moisture stress. Use mulch to help keep soil evenly moist. Vegetables need 1 to 1.5 inches of water a week while fruiting. The best way to water tomato plants planted in the ground is with a soaker hose. In hot climates, it can be especially tricky to keep a big tomato plants in pots watered well all summer. Make sure to water them daily or set them up on a drip system. And you can also spray tomato plants with a calcium solution made for blossom end rot. Follow label directions and apply 2 to 3 times a week, beginning at the first bloom. This is not a long-term fix, but can salvage many crops and also take some of the other steps to prevent blossom end rot. Now, I will say one of the things I like to do is there are some great calcium or CalMag products that you can find at your local hydroponics store. And when I'm fertilizing my plants, I do like to add a little bit of liquid calcium or CalMag. And I usually buy one from Botanicare or Hydro Farm. Or I guess it would be General Hydroponics. Wow, my mind went blank. So I usually will get one from Botanicare or General Hydroponics. They both have calcium products. And when I'm planting and fertilizing my tomato plants, I automatically add in calcium as a just in case. So it's a great product to add. So the brown, rotting bottom part of your tomatoes that sometimes happen, it is not a fungal or bacterial disease, but it is a calcium issue. So there you go. There's your question of the week. Why are my tomatoes turning black on the bottom?
Youngsters with shovel, and we don't need no trouble. We're just planting.
We're listening to DFC Radio.
This is gardening in 2 minutes. There's nothing more enjoyable than going out to your garden and harvesting your own freshly picked green beans. Green beans fall into 2 categories, pole beans and bush beans.
Pole beans take 60 to 70 days to harvest, and they will continue to put beans out and bear fruit throughout the summer. Bush beans take 40 to 60 days to reach maturity, and they will put beans out for about 2 weeks. But no matter what kind of beans you grow, it's important to pick the beans and continue to pick them so they continue to bear fruit.
Bush beans and pole beans, these are green beans. These are different than hard shell beans. Hard shell beans take a longer period of time. The hard shell beans, we're talking about white northern and kidney beans and pinto beans. That's not what we're talking about here. These are the traditional green beans, and they can come in a variety of different colors. Green, yellow, and burgundy, or a purple variety. You want to plant these in a relatively fertile soil. Beans will fix their own nitrogen, so you don't have to worry about really fertilizing them. You do want to space them adequately to allow them to have space to grow.
It's important to trellis the pole beans so that they have something to grow up, which will allow for better production and easier picking.
Now, pole beans and bush beans, you can actually get 2 crops out of this. One, the early or late spring, and then figure out when your average last frost date is. Beans will die with a frost, so you want to figure out when that average last frost date is in your area, and you can back the dates off and actually get planted in midsummer and get an early fall crop for your beans. For more information on bush beans and pole beans, our weekly video productions, as well as our free downloadable digital magazines, you can find all that information at
the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com.
For the health-conscious organic gardener worldwide. For Gardening in 2 Minutes, I'm Joy Baird.
And I'm Holly Baird.
We're listening to DFCRadio.com.
Here at Green Grow, we take organic gardening seriously. With our mycorrhizae products, you'll increase growth and help reduce the need to replace old, worn-out soil. We help provide electrolytes and maximize nutrient intake to make your indoor garden lush and green. So give your plants the strength that they need and breathe life into your soil with Green Grow. Find us at your local nursery or visit us at thegreengrow.com. That's thegreen.com.
You are listening to the beautiful Emily Walter on DFCRadio.com. Hey, Dr. Duff, are you signing up for another one of those internet dating sites after your divorce?
Nah, I'm just ordering these freaking douchebags from China here. Just gonna be saving a lot of money on it. About $1 a bag.
Did you say douchebags?
Yeah, they're pots. They're fabric pots. They're, made in China. They save $1 a bag from all the other...
Oh, it sounds like an imitation smart pot or something.
Yeah, save $1, but, I'm pretty sure these douchebags are gonna work.
Dude, I had a buddy of mine who used those same douchebags. He bought them direct from China. It killed his whole garden.
Bro, what? So, I'm better off spending that extra $1 on a smart pot?
I'd get a smart pot.
Don't be a Duff man. Make sure to buy the original patented Smart Pot. Check them out at smartpots.com.
DFCRadio.com.
Welcome back to A Girl in a Garden on DFCRadio.com. This is your host, Emily. And a big, big thank you to LJ and Daryl for being guests on A Girl in a Garden and talking about aquaponics and cannabis. It's something that really hasn't been done, or if it has been done, it's always been told it's not going to work. So check out the pictures, and I'll have the videos posted too with some kind of slow shots with the video that I did up on A Girl in a Garden, hopefully this weekend. And next week on the show, today on the show we talked about the common garden issue of blossom end rot, especially on tomatoes, and my tomatoes are starting to come in, and I'm going to be talking about common tomato issues and things that's come up. And tomatoes can be really easy to grow, and they can also be really finicky at the same time. And this is also one of the reasons why I say to always put your staking in and everything you need for your little tiny tomato plant when you plant it, because they get big fast and they can become overwhelming. This year, I'm only growing 3 tomato plants just because It's in a community garden plot, and I don't know how much I'm going to be gardening. And as I said earlier in the show, I'm actually moving. I just signed with my own house that has a garden. So I will be doing some stuff community garden and setting up this new garden somewhere else. So limited tomato plants this year. I picked 3 different kinds. One is going to be a grape one is just going to be a regular tomato, a vine tomato, and then I did the indigo rose ones, which I've grown a few years ago. I actually think I grew the indigo blue ones, which are extremely beautiful tomato plant, but they didn't taste very good. But they're beautiful, so I decided to give it the college try and grow it a second time. But I'm finding as I've been traveling and working and having your regular life stuff come up that they're starting to outgrow the cages already, and just some of the common things of what happens in the tomato when you're growing tomatoes, and some tips on how to help with it as well. So that will be next week on the show. And this weekend is the San Francisco Cannabis Cup from High Times. So I will be going on Saturday only. I can only take about one day of those trade shows. They're super fun, but I'm good with one day. So I'll be going there Saturday. I'll bring some feedback, tell you what what all it is about. They are fun shows to go to, even if you don't work in the cannabis industry, because it's great for people watching, and it is actually one of my favorite things for people watching. But we're also seeing all these great mainstream garden products move on over to the cannabis industry. And you're also seeing great products from the cannabis and hydroponic stores moving on over to mainstream gardening. And you know why it's doing that? It's because they grow great plants. It doesn't matter what you're growing. Some of those products found in your hydroponic shops can grow some of the biggest, juiciest tomatoes that you can ever think of. So going back to my question of the week, I recommend using CalMag. And CalMag is a common product that you can find in almost any hydroponic shop, and that can help you reduce your blossom end rot and give your plants much needed calcium. So I think we'll be exploring some of these other products that are kind of crossover that you can use in either industry. Silica is another product that's great for mainstream gardening as well. Now, something else I've been talking about recently, and it's not just to do with gardening, is I've been getting out and exercising a lot. Gardening is also my exercise, but I've really been focusing on my health because I've had some health things come up. And so I bought myself a Fitbit, and I've been using it since, let's see, I think May 27th was the first time I started using it. And I've been doing this nice competition with one of my girlfriends, and we've been cheering each other on. So, since I took last week off, from May 31st to June 6th, so since the beginning of June, I have, that week I did 40 miles. Last week, even when I am traveling, I got 40.71 miles. And this week, and it's Tuesday afternoon while we're recording this, I have 11.13 miles in already. And I feel so good. I've been eating my greens from the garden. I had a great garden harvest last night. I was able to get, let's see, what did I have? An artichoke, red leaf lettuce, butter lettuce, and kale. And it was amazing. I've been able to eat some food, and I have a feeling I'll be eating salad for the next 3 months because I've planted so many greens this year. So exercising outside where it's free, getting the vitamin D, getting some fresh air because I sit in a windowless office, and I am exercising, gardening, and eating better, and it's my skin is fantastic now. So it's been really helpful, and I love my Fitbit, and even though they're an advertiser on my show, this thing is fantastic. I might actually end up switching to an Apple Watch eventually, but it's great to be able to see how much you've been walking and go, oh, do I need some more steps in? Sleeping good, being able to work out and garden and run 5 miles at a time, and I'm totally cool with that. So I love my Fitbit, and I will say exercise has really been improving my life. Part of that through gardening. Now, if you have any questions, suggestions, gardening questions, tips, please let me know. Send me over an email at girlandthegarden@gmail.com, or you can contact me on Facebook or through Instagram. If you are interested in advertising on A Girl in a Garden, you can contact Aaliyah, and that's ALEA at dfcradio.com. And if you are interested in being a guest or would like to have someone be a guest on A Girl in a Garden, send an email to agirlinagarden@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And right after this show is Grow with Grubby Cup. And if you are on the website, make sure you check out all of the shows that are on the DFC Radio Network. Until next week, this is Emily on A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com.
We're listening to DFC Radio.com.